Episode 19, and we're back with SUP FM, and we've got Frans from Holland. He's just finished the SUP 11
The
City
SUP
Tour.
11 City Tour.
The SUP 11 City Tour from 2015. And he came first. But like he did last year, he came second. But as he said himself, it's not so much about racing other people. It's about racing yourself. And he also said that he was a little bit crazy to do this. What do you think?
Aloha and welcome to SUP FM, the podcast for stand-up paddleboarders everywhere. So with no further ado, let's get out on the water and on with the show. Here are your hosts, Nick and Simon.
Hi, Ika. It's great to have you on SUP FM. Thanks so much for coming by.
Hello.
How are you doing? You okay? Where are you at the moment, actually?
Well, I'm in Holland. I'm in the northwest part of Holland. That's where I live, and that's where I'm at home.
Okay, because technically, Netherlands is divided up into different provinces, and Holland is one of them. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have two Hollands in Holland. We have the North Holland, that's where I live, and we have South Holland, and that's another province. And we have 12 provinces, and the North Holland is in the northwest.
Okay, and Friesland, whereabout is that?
Friesland we have a big lake in the middle of Holland. It's called the IJsselmeer, and there's a dike that's 30 kilometers long. So you drive from North Holland to Friesland over the dike, and then you're there.
Okay, so Friesland is more or less in the middle of Holland, right? Of Netherlands.
Nah, Friesland is more in the north. Yeah, in the north. Okay. Yeah.
And that's where the legendary 11 Cities Tour has just been run, right?
Yeah, that's the grueling 220 kilometers circle there. Yeah, 11 cities.
That's crazy. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of the 11 Cities SUP race?
Sure. The 11 Cities is a ice skating tour, and if they ice skate it now in modern day, the fast guys do it in 8 hours, and if you do it on a SUP, it takes me 28 and a half hours to do the same route. So that's a big difference between the ice skating and the supping. But it's really old. I think it's already 100 years old, the ice skating tour. Yeah, and the supping is just began in 2009. Now 2011. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now it was the first SUP race was in 2000, I think 2009 or 2010.
Okay. But this I was reading about this 11 Cities ice skating thing, and it's apparently it only ran last in 1997. Is that because there's a lack of ice or something or what?
Yeah, that's because there's a lack of ice. Yeah, because the tour is so long. And it's like you have narrow canals, natural style, and you have these hand dug canals. And those are wide and deep for big ships, and it takes a long time for them to freeze. So it takes a while. It has to be cold for a long time, and then we have the ice over the 220 kilometers, and that doesn't happen all that often anymore.
Okay, yeah, because that obviously must be a bit scary if you skating along and the guys could drop into the water.
Yeah, sure. I think 2 years ago, almost run the ice skating tour, almost. But then, of course, people did it on their own account. That they just went skating, and when the ice was not thick enough. And then you see all those YouTube clips that they go through the ice and that they don't make it. And yeah.
So how did you get involved in? Should we go how you got involved in stand-up paddle first, and how you got involved in the 11 Cities tour?
Yeah, it's sort of the same because a friend of mine, because the first 11 city that was run, the supping one, Annemarie did it first all alone. She's the founder, Annemarie Rijgman. And she tried it on a 12.6 and she made it, of course. And then she decided, let's do a 5-day race. And then she invited 16 people. And there was Conor Baxter and more famous guys, supping guys. And there were 16 of them. They were invited. And then she ran the first SUP 11 cities in an invitational. And they all made it. Then a friend of mine also participated that year. And he came back and he said, Ike, you have to get into the supping thing. And I said, no. And it looked a bit dull. And I said, nah, I think that's nothing for me. And he borrowed me a board, and I tried it. And he said, you have to participate in the 11 cities next year. Yeah, and then I was hooked. I tried it for 5 times. I did my first small race, and then I started training for the 11 cities, and that was how I get into supping.
Can you remember the very first time you actually stepped on his board, or on a board?
Yeah, I remember it. I asked my friend, I said, hey, do I need to wear a wetsuit? He said, no. On a board like this, you don't need to wear a wetsuit. So I took I think it was a 12.6 Nash, and I took it out on the canal here in Schagen, in my hometown, and I was just wearing sport clothes, no wetsuit, and I got on the board, and then it was pretty stable, and then I started supping, and then in the beginning I did it with no wind, and then I thought, okay, I have to go, every single 3 days or something, I have to go on the board, and then I went on the board, and then with wind, and then it was a different story, the downwind stuff, that was pretty easy, but then going upwind with the 12.6, that was pretty hard in the beginning. Yeah. And from the 12.6, I went to a starboard K15, the classic one, and then I used that for 2 years, I think, and then really it took off, because on the 12.6 you don't have that gliding feeling, and on the K15 you definitely have. So that and then I went.
How
into
wide is
enduro.
that K15? Do you know more or less how wide it is? What is it, about 26 inches wide or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was like 73 centimeters. I don't know that one in inch.
Okay.
No. I know. At that stage, it was, the 15 foot was important. How wide it was not important yet.
Yeah. That's 28 inches in 73 centimeters is 28.7 inches.
The board I'm using at the moment is like 23. So
Wow.
that's a big difference. Yeah, in 5 years time.
Yeah, it must be quite difficult to balance on that 23 inch.
Yeah, well, but if you stand on it every single day, then it's not that hard. In the beginning it's hard, but the more hours you put in, the easier it gets.
So at the moment, and that's what you used for this 11 cities, was the 23 inches, and it's, what is it, 14 foot or what?
Yeah, 14 foot. 23 wide, starboard sprint.
Okay. So now, with the 11 Cities tour, I know that it started with a 5-day event, and you divided up into stages. And then in 2014, I'm not sure if it was, I suppose Anne-Marie decided to do it non-stop. And did you start on the non-stop section, or did you do the 5 stages first?
No, I did the 5-day stage first. I did that 3 times. 3 times I completed the race, and then there were like 3 people who did non-stop on their own. Without a race, they just did it by themselves. There was the first guy, and it was Bart de Swart. He put a record. There was the
Why
first
did
guy
he start to do
that? The ice skating tour is in one go, and they do the 11 cities walking, cycling, with a car, with a motor. They do the 11 city tours in different ways. But it's all in one go, and only the SUP one was in 5 days. So they wanted to do it in one go, like the ice skating tour does.
Excellent. And so Bart de Swart was one of the first to do it?
No, Bart de Swart was not the first. I forgot his name. Who did it first? Shit. Yeah, it comes later. There were 3 people before the race who did it, and Bart de Swart was the second one. And then we had a lady, and she was the first a lady, and yeah, this year there was another lady who finished it. So there are 2 ladies and a few men who did the non-stop.
Okay. And obviously with it becoming a non-stop race, it becomes the longest SUP race in the world, the longest non-stop race in the world.
Yeah, I think so.
And so you've done it twice, did you say?
Yeah, I've done it twice. Last year was the first time. In 2014, that was the first race. And then 12 people started, and then 8 finished. And then there was Arnaud, a Belgian guy who lives in Chile. He was really, really fast. And he has, I think, the record with, it was 26 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's pretty fast, huh? Yeah.
Oh, it is pretty fast, yeah.
Yeah, that is really fast. Yeah, then I became second. Yeah, and then that guy, he was so fast. He had such a nice strategy. His brakes were really short, and he didn't have that much brakes. And I had more brakes and longer. Yeah, so I
Are
could
you talking
never
about
get.
this year now, or are you talking about
No, that
last
was
year?
last year. That was last year.
Okay, that was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as this year goes, can you try and take us through exactly how it happened? I mean, is it far away from your house? Do you have to drive through there up to Friesland? And how did it happen? Sort of, did you start early in the morning, or how did it happen?
Yeah. It's an hour and a half drive from my house to Leeuwarden, and Leeuwarden is like the capital city of Friesland. And then there are some big boats. They're already 100 years old, and then people sleep on the boats for the 5 days. And we had the skippers meeting on a boat like that the evening before the race. So I already went to Friesland the evening before, and then we started, I think, at 9. Now we wanted to start at 8, and then there was a thunderstorm with lightning and everything. So they postponed the race, and then the lightning passed, and then they postponed the race for an hour, and then we started at 9, I think, at 9.
At 9
Yeah,
a.m. in the next morning. Yeah.
9 a.m. the next morning we started. Yeah. Yeah, but this year 3 people participated, and the weather conditions were predicted really rough. So there were thunderstorms and there was rain predicted. But the funny thing was, in the beginning the wind was in our favor. So we started. It's like a big oval. It's a circumnavigation. The tour. There's a little detour to Dokkum that goes sort of off the circle. You go back and forth, and then back to the circle, and then you finish in Leeuwarden.
Okay.
And yeah, the wind was in our favor. So we started in Leeuwarden, and we had the wind in our backs going to the south. And then in the bottom of the oval, you go more to the west, and then the wind turned more to the east. So we had the wind in our backs in the bottom of the tour. And then at the bottom of the oval, where you go up again to the north, then the wind turned again, and it turned south. So it pushed us north. Only then it became dark, and then the wind turned headwind, and the wind got stronger, and yeah, and then it was a different story. But the first 100 kilometers were like they were really good. There was one moment that was a thunderstorm coming in Stavoren. That's one of the 11 cities, and then we had to take shelter and under a concrete bridge, and there was lightning, and there was a lot of water coming down, and then they stopped the time because that was where we had to stop. Every participant had to come off the water and just have a break and go for shelter. And then I was out of the race for like 20 minutes, and then we were allowed to continue again. But apart from that thunderstorm, it was a really good day. There was some wind in the back, and then it was the first 100 kilometers were like really, really good. But the second 120 kilometers, they were a bit different. Yeah.
Right. Because it turned dark. Is that the main reason?
No. The dark part is not the problem. The problem was that the wind turned to headwind. We had headwind. So that's in the north part of the tour. You call them the hell of the north, because in the wintertime, the prevailing winds are like east, and then the top of the oval, you go from west to east, and that's a long way. That's the longest stretch from Harlingen to Dokkum. That's really, really far. I think that's 100 kilometers on the top. And then you have the prevailing winds from the east. Yeah, and then we also had headwinds during the night, and they were pretty strong. So that was painful.
So what do you do? I mean, are you allowed to lie down and prone paddle or not?
No. You have to. It's called SUP. So you have to. No, you have to stand. No. You're not allowed to sit. No.
That's quite tough. But I'm just thinking about navigating, because I was reading something and that you actually have to navigate quite a lot. It's not just one river, that you have to take a few turns here and there. And how do you manage that at night time?
No, because it's a race. They have this year was really good organized by the 11 City Tour. They had these lights with arrows. So the arrows were like from big to small, like moving towards the direction you had to go. So it's pitch dark because it's like it's only grass, and so it's really dark, and you see the lights already from really far away. So the navigating stuff is easy.
Oh, excellent. Was it always the case, or has that just recently changed in the last few years?
No, the first year it was a white light. You saw a white light in the distance, and then you know that there's going to be a change of direction. And then there was a red light towards the direction where you had to go. So when you are sort of on a T-junction, you go towards the white light. And when you got to the white light, you look left or you look right. And then on the right side, you saw a red light. And then you had to go towards the red light, and then you took the turn. And this year it was with arrows. So this year was better than last year.
Mm-hmm. And you said there were only 3 people on the total tour.
Yeah, this year there were only 3 people. Yeah, yeah.
Why was that? Because of the
Yeah,
weather
there was
predictions?
no four because one quit. It was a Frenchman. He stopped in Franeker. Yeah, yeah. There was another male and a female from the UK. Yeah.
Okay. And why do you think it was so few people? Because I mean, the year before there was 12 people or 13. Did you say? I think. And why do you think it was so few? Because of the weather predictions, or what was that?
Yeah, I think the first year, all the Dutch people who really wanted to do the 11 cities nonstop, they did it last year, and most of the people made it all the way to the finish line. And the weather last year was perfect. There was no wind. It was warm. Also throughout the night, you could go in your t-shirt the day and night. And yeah, this year was different. So during the day you could go in a t-shirt, but during the night it was raining and it was windy, and you had to have warm clothes on. So it was different. It was just different. Last year it was sort of easy, and then this year, the weather elements they made it even harder.
Oh, so it's even more of an amazing achievement that you managed to come second. That's incredible.
Yeah. The first year I got second, and the second year I was the first one crossing the finish line. Yeah, but yeah, there was only 2 males and 1 female participating, so it was not. But if you do the 11 city tour non-stop, it's actually a race against yourself because you cannot adjust to the speed from somebody else. If you want to go as fast as a guy who goes faster than you, then you're going to burn yourself up, and you're not going to make the 220 kilometers. So the 11 city tour, the non-stop, the 220 kilometers, you do it in your own pace, and you take your breaks when you want to take a break, and somebody else takes a break at another stage. You can never do the same race as somebody else does. That's impossible.
So, Ika, how did you find your rhythm? Like, how did you work out how long it takes you to paddle? And you go until you're exhausted and then you stop and break, or have you got a set training regime or a set sort of racing regime?
Yeah, you have a set pace. Yeah. During training, you find out what the pace is. So my pace is sort of like I can go 8.8 kilometers per hour for a really, really long time. Let's say the first 100 kilometers I could go 8.5 kilometers per hour up till 9, and then after 100 kilometers your speed goes down a little bit because it turns night, and in the dark you don't pedal as hard as in the light, and then your speed goes down to sort of like 8, and then the daylight comes again, and then the speed picks up again. Your speed is going to pick up again because you're almost there. So then you already smell the Leeuwarden again, and then your speed picks up. So this year it was the same curve as last year. Your speed goes up, so 9, 8, 8.5, 9, and then during the end of the race you go 8. Yeah,
but that's still quite a pace. I mean, 8 to 9 kilometers per hour is quite a pace to keep up. It's fast.
It is. Yeah, that's fast. Yeah. But I train every other day, and then you just try to train that. I train that pace. You find out what technique you have to use, because I also found out that if you go up to 8.5 kilometers per hour, everything is fine. You don't strain your hands, you don't strain anything. But if you go to a pace that's like 9 kilometers per hour, then I get blisters on my hands, and then you strain yourself. So it's always a fine line. If I do the race, the 11 city tour nonstop, then I have a speed watch, so I can see my the speed I'm going. So if I go too fast, then I know that I'm going to burn myself up. So then my speed goes down again.
That's incredible that it's such a fine line between that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you found that many of the other guys are similar to that as well, or do they have completely different styles?
Completely different styles. Yeah, like the first year, I copied Bart de Swart. I went up to Bart and I said, Bart, how did you do it? Well, he said, well, he had like 10 breaks from 10 to 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, that was the strategy from last year. So I thought that's what I'm going to do. So I trained for that, and then my mindset was also to do that. And then that Arnoud, I was pedaling pretty fast in the beginning last year. And then Arnoud, I was having a really nice and sort of long break. And then Arnoud came into the city, and then he straight away, he pedaled out again. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, 45 kilometers without stopping. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then when he stopped for like 3 minutes. So I did like 10 breaks for like 10 to 15 minutes, and he did I think 5 breaks from 3 minutes. So that's a difference.
Mm.
Yeah, and then we have this Mike. That was the other male person who participated this year. He takes breaks whenever he feels like having a break. So when he's tired or when he's hungry or he's thirsty, he calls out to his crew because he has like a sort of a land crew following him with a car. And then he phones them and he says, "Okay, I want to break there and there," and then they're there, and then he eats or gets a small massage or. So that's a complete different strategy. Everybody does it in his own way. Yeah.
Hmm. So did you have some backup crew as well to give you massages and food and stuff?
No, this year I didn't. But it's last year I had one guy following me, and then I already said to him I want to break it there, and I want to break there, and I want to break there, and he said okay, that's fine. So I had a box full of food. And I had a chair, and my chair and the food was always there when I wanted. So when I came, I could sit in the chair and then have my food. But this year was a bit different. This year I decided to do it unsupported, to go just only use the people who organized the race to get my food to certain places. And they did. But then in Harlingen, then you have another 120 kilometers to go or 100 kilometers to go to the finish. And then it turned dark, and I didn't have anybody supporting me. And then I had a friend, Buddy Dauma. He just ran alongside the shore. He said, "Hey, Ike, how you doing?" And it was already dark, and he said, "I'm doing fine." And then I said, "Why are you here? You're going to race tomorrow. Are you going to do the 5-day?" He said, "No, man, I'm here for you. I'm going to get you through the night." I'm like, huh?
Oh, awesome.
But I was really feeling good at that moment. So I thought, okay, well, it's fine that he's here. So, okay, so he was there and he took all my food in his car, and then he started following me. But then in Franeker, I was a bit grumpy. I could already recognize it. And then you have another 65 kilometers to go to the finish. So in Franeker, he was there, and I was grumpy. I was only having negative thought. It's cold, and I have headwind when I leave here, and I was only having negative thoughts. And then he said, "No, I take it easy. You just go for a little bit, and then you'll make it." And then I got a little bit nauseous. How do I stop this nausea feeling? I wanna get rid of it. So the only thing was on my mind was to stop the race. And then I also had the feeling that I had to throw up. So I saw him again after Franeker, and I did another 10 kilometers with a lot of headwinds, strong headwinds. And I went up to his car and I said, "Hey man, buddy," I said, I don't feel well, I feel nauseous. I think I have to throw up." He said, "Well, if you think you have to throw up, you have to throw up." I'm like, "Okay." And then, he said, "I'm going to turn the car around and then we can sit in the car." So before he turned the car around, I already puked 3 times. And I'm like, shit, I'm like, the race is over now. And then Buddy said to me, "No, the race is not over. You're not going to stop." I'm like, okay. And I didn't feel well. And then he took the Coca-Cola out and he made a mix of Coca-Cola and water. And it was not much. I think it was a small glass. And then I just took it on my empty stomach. And within 10 minutes, I was back on my board again and I was pedaling again.
It sounds like he's an absolute angel, your buddy here.
I was so happy that he was there, that he saved my race this year. Without him, I definitely would have stopped. Yeah.
And he wasn't planned at all for him to come and be and support you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Oh, that's
I didn't
fantastic.
plan anything, and he just saw on the Facebook that I participated on the non-stop, and he saw that I also didn't have anybody following me, and he just came to Friesland, and then he just he pulled me through the night.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's a wonderful story. It's nice to know you got mates like that. That's good friends.
Yeah, that's good. They just pop up when you need them.
Yeah. What about food? Because you talked about food a lot. What kind of nutrition do you use in training and on the tour itself?
Yeah, this year during the race, I took too much sugar. So I had a lot of quick sugars like chocolate, and I didn't have enough the slow stuff like the oats and the. Yeah, so this year my food was not that great, No, it could have been better. Yeah,
So what did you change next year?
Yeah, I would eat less sugar. I would go more for the slow carbs, not the fast ones. Yeah, because your body can only absorb so much carbs per hour, but you use much more than that. You can never eat against what you use. So if you take too much sugar, then your body will it will react on it. It wants to get rid of them. You cannot use too much carbohydrates if you during sports. Yeah.
So can you recommend any types of foods that people would if they are going to go on a long paddle, like a really long paddle, for them to eat?
Yeah, I would eat the oats. I would eat a mix of honey, cinnamon, and coconut oil. Yeah, it's better to use the natural stuff than the really sweet stuff, because if you do a really long race, it's better to adapt your body to use the fat than to use the carbohydrates, because the carbohydrates you're gonna run out, and you can never eat so much carbohydrates to fill up the tank again. So it's better to use the fat stuff, but then you have to also train to burn the fat instead of the carbohydrates. So that's a different training, Then you have to train with a lower heart rate than with a higher heart rate, And I trained with the too high of a heart rate, and I only burned carbohydrates. And then I advise to burn the fat. So you have to adjust the training.
Okay, yeah. It sounds very technical. I mean, obviously, you're spending, I don't know how much time you actually start training before the race, but how many months do you prepare beforehand?
Yeah, a whole year, yeah.
Okay, so you're constantly training all the time.
Yeah, if you want to participate in a non-stop, yeah, I would start training a year ahead, from zero to the race. You can make it in a year, yeah.
And have you ever done much paddling on the oceans? Because I know you've experienced some bad weather this year, but flat water is a whole lot easier than the ocean, isn't it?
Yeah, flat water is a whole lot easier than on the ocean. But on the non-stop 11 city tour, or on the 11 city tour, I think there are, let's count, 4 lakes you have to cross. So we were lucky that we had like tailwinds, but there are some years that you have some side wind, and then you have like chop, and that the chop is like 40 centimeters high, 30 to 40 centimeters, and that's not so nice on a narrow race board.
Yeah, I was going to say, on a 23-inch board, that must be really tough.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, because I'm just about to do a 150-kilometer paddle in the Atlantic Ocean across the Algarve, and it's getting to be November now, and it's the swell's picking up, and it's going to be quite fun. But I'm not going to take a 23-inch board. I'll tell you that.
No, better not. No. And from where to where are you going then?
Well, we're going from Sagres, which is the southwestern corner of Portugal, all the way across to the Spanish border. So basically, we're going all the way across the southern coast, the width of Portugal. So.
Oh, that sounds very nice.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. So,
if you have time, you're gonna wait for the right weather.
Well, we're gonna definitely check out the weather because our prevailing wind is from the west, but occasionally we get an easterly wind, which we call the Levant, and that could just mess everything up. So we're going to have to check out the weather beforehand to decide which way we're going to start from. But if the weather's too hectic and the swell's too bad, we'll just have to wait it out and wait a day on the beach and camp on the beach.
Okay, and you talk about you're going to go with more people?
Yeah, it's myself and another guy called Spike Reed, who paddled across the width of England. So I actually interviewed him on SUP FM a few episodes back as well. So we met there, and then we're going together. So if you're keen, Ike, I would love to have you down, man.
Yeah. Sounds good. And what time do you want to do it?
The thing is, I don't really know. I mean, it's all weather dependent, because obviously on the ocean, I think the weather is going to be highly dependent. It could be 3-4 days. It could be 5, 6, 7 days. You never know.
Yeah, okay, but that's the time it takes to do it, or is it the time you want to leave in the 3 to 5 or 6 days?
I'm just allowing more or less 5 days for it. But if it goes to 7 days, then that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're not racing the clock or anything. We're just going to go for the experience, just to achieve it and complete it and make a video about it. And it's going to be good fun.
But that's good. It's better, always racing again. I race against the clock many times, but it's much more fun to leave the clock at home.
Yeah, exactly. And our idea is to have fun. I mean, it's not to kill ourselves or anything like that. So we're trying to have fun and enjoy it. And then, once you get a taste of that, maybe we'll join you on the 11 Cities tour next year.
Yeah, well, it is fun. But I would check the weather. If it's like if they suspect so much headwind as we had, then it's hard to do the 220 kilometers.
Absolutely. No, I'm looking for tailwinds myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Eike, it's been fantastic chatting to you, and thank you so much for enlightening us about the 11 Cities tour, because it's an incredible race, and it's obviously one of the world's best races, and a lot of people talk about it, and it gets a lot of coverage, which is great. I'm reading a lot about it on supracer.com, and it's really awesome to hear your views on it from right in the cockpit, as it were.
Yeah, and the non-stop race is like more for crazy people. But the 5-day race, the atmosphere on the 5-day race is so good that this year the non-stop was before the 5 days. So when we finished, everybody was already in Friesland to start the next day with the 5-day race. And yeah, my wife said to me, Ike, why don't you stay here in Friesland to look at the first day and see how everybody does? And then I just stayed for one day, and then I stayed for another day, and I stayed for another day, and I stayed for another day, and I stayed for the, yeah, I stayed till the last day. And in the last day, I pedaled myself again. So from Dokkum to Leeuwarden, and the atmosphere of watching, because you go from bridge to bridge and from lookout to lookout, and you cheer to everybody. The atmosphere during the 5-day race, that's really, really special, because you have people from all over the world paddling, and you start cheering in like 3 languages, and it's like really, really fun. And
Sounds
everybody
amazing.
sleeps on boats. Yeah,
So there's a bit of a party at night.
Nah, well, no, everybody really wants to make it all the way back to Leeuwarden again. So nobody's really partying, but the atmosphere, everybody wants to do the same thing and just having fun and paddling through the Dutch landscape. And it's a really, really, really good atmosphere. Yeah, I wanted to go home after the first day, but I stayed for the 5 days. Yeah, no, it's funny.
Oh, it sounds like an incredible experience. So, anyway, well, Ike, thanks a lot again, and well done. It's been fantastic chatting to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to SUP FM, the #1 podcast for stand-up paddlers wherever you are. If you like what you've heard, please leave us a review on iTunes. Until then, we'll see you on the water.